That was the DA leader in Gauteng, John Moody, speaking to us a little bit earlier on about developments that have been taking place where we've seen the MEC for Kotze in Gauteng suspending without pay one's former speaker and a current speaker, Tshwane and Johannesburg respectively. And to give us a little bit more about this development, we're now joined by a political analyst, Professor Dirk Kotze, in our Pretoria studios. Prof, thanks very much indeed for joining us. What do you make of what's happening? If we were in America, we'd be thinking this is a Democratic Party, Republican tiff playing out in various houses of Congress, etc. Is this what we're experiencing here?
To some extent, yes. What we are seeing here is the fact that two political parties that are involved in the internal dynamics of both Tshwane as well as Johannesburg are also now involved in this decision-making that has taken place by the province and the ANC's MEC. I think why this becomes problematic or is so contentious is that it is not a decision about, for example, putting a local authority under administration, which means it does not involve become involved with the political dynamics. It's more about the administration itself. In this case, it is aimed or directed at some specific office bearers from a very specific political party done by another political party. That means the ANC. And I think that is what makes this controversial. We know the history of Tshwane, that since last year, since actually the time of the former mayor of Tshwane, Solim Simanga, the mayor was involved in making rulings about motions of no confidence on technical matters, and that has continued now under the current mayor. And I think that is why the ANC, to a large extent, has become very frustrated by this situation. But the internal dynamics is of such a nature that no party has a majority, and I think this is making this situation exceptionally complicated, therefore.
All right, so, I mean, what are the consequences, I guess, for citizens? We're busy watching what's playing out in these council chambers and outside. What does it mean for us? Well,
it creates a lot of uncertainty, first of all, in Tshwane. In the case of Johannesburg, I think it's less the case, because there was already a change in government. It is now an ANC-led coalition government that took over from the DA coalition. So the action against the mayor, Vasco da Gama, to some extent hasn't direct implications, because he's not the mayor in any case anymore. But in the case of Tshwane, it creates uncertainty about which party is actually in power at the moment. Because there is no motion of no confidence yet adopted in either the speaker or the mayor, but the mayor has been removed, and there's also no new incoming administration by, let's say, an ANC-led coalition. So that makes it almost impossible to know exactly who's at the moment, today, for example, in control of Tshwane.
Will the powers of the MEC be tested with this one? The DA seems to think that he's broken the law and that council was supposed to pass a resolution to this effect. What will that mean?
Well, it will certainly be a test case about what are the powers of the MEC of local government, or COGTA, because it is about intergovernmental relationships and the constitutional nature of it. As I said, it's much more clearer about what is the powers of the province when it comes to put a local government under administration. But to become involved in office bearers, and while there is the mechanism of motions of no confidence and other forms of censure at local government level in order to deal with office bearers, the fact that it is overridden or interfered with to a large extent from the provincial side, I think will make this a test case whether that is indeed constitutional or not.
Let's take a look at the individual cases themselves, and let's start with the speaker in Tshwane, Katlego Matebe, and it seems that her crime was not wanting to have this meeting go ahead where she was an agenda item. How serious is that, and would that warrant the punishment that she's received from the MEC?
Well, many people will see that she's taking decisions that try to prevent a motion of no confidence in the Speaker ultimately. So the sequence of motions of no confidence, and there are actually 3 in the pipeline. It's against her, it's against the Mayor, as well as the chairpersons in the Council. Now the sequence of which vote will take place appears to be the main issue. And she appears to, from the outside, to manipulate that to some extent, that sequence, and that is what the ANC and the EFF are supposed to. But according to the DA's reading of it, she does have the power. She has the power to determine what is the agenda of a meeting or a sitting of the Metro Council, and in order to, through the procedural elements that's available to her, to determine how they are put to the vote. The ANC obviously objects to that, and that is why it has become, from their point of view, looks like they are arguing that she's actually manipulating her powers and has gone beyond her powers, and that has motivated the MEC in order to intervene.
Okay, let's turn to Mr. Gama in Johannesburg, and he's been accused of contravening the code of conduct for councillors, and this is because he requested some clarity on to get some legal opinion on what constituted a majority. Is that worth being suspended for 3 months? Well,
as an outsider, a person who is not involved in these proceedings or a member of any of these institutions, I think, and as a political scientist, for us, it was quite clear of what that procedure will be. What is the requirement, the majority for a motion of no confidence against the Mayor? That is 50% plus 1 of the total number of members of the council. He created, or the DA, we don't know exactly whom, created some sense of uncertainty about whether it is those present or whether it is of the total number of members. And that was the basis on which he referred it to a legal opinion. But if we look back to when, in 2016, when the Mayor was elected, that uncertainty didn't exist then. Still, it was at the time when the DA didn't have a majority, so it was an uncertain situation in any case. So I think from that point of view, yes, objectively speaking, one can say there wasn't grounds for him to refer it to a legal opinion, but whether it warrants a suspension, and strictly speaking, I don't know what the suspension means. Is it suspension as in his former position, because he's not in that position anymore, or is it as a councillor, because he's still an elected councillor? So I think that has to be clarified.
All right, and then perhaps finally, local government elections are on the horizon, and citizens are busy watching all of this play out and making up their minds. Could there be political capital lost here? Because if people perceive this to be more than just procedure and it's actually politics playing out, that they could get quite fatigued by what they're seeing.
Well, I suspect that there will be certainly an element of that. We've seen it in other parts of the world, most likely in the UK, where there was uncertainty about who is actually in government, coalitions, where the Conservative Party won the election with an increased majority. And that might be one of the implications in both metros, Johannesburg as well as Tshwane, that one of the parties might gain some advantage over this. We also know that Herman Mashaba has announced that there's something in the pipeline from his side, so that might become an alternative option. But at this stage, it's exceptionally difficult to really predict what it is. Another possibility which we would discourage is that some of the voters simply withdraw, that there's voter apathy, that they feel that it's not worth participating in elections.
All right, Professor Dirk Kotze, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed, as always, for your insights. We're going to take a quick break. You're watching SA Today. When we come back, we take you to Davos, Switzerland, for more from this year's WEF.